Welcome to the Greater Central Florida Multifamily Investor Group, where we focus on investing where it makes sense. Here's your host, Ismael Ray Reyes.
Man, it's good to have everyone here. The key is, and what we try to do in the show here is really talk to people that are interested either in Central Florida or folks that perhaps are living in the area that are interested in investing in other locations. We get people from everywhere here, obviously, and depending on the topic, some people will come in just to listen to a speaker. But this is by no means do we just invest in Florida here. It's just a good opportunity to get a group of folks in the area, and or people that are interested in the area. And if somebody is from outside of the area and has something they want me to look at, or somebody else that's in the area to look at, this is a good opportunity to do some of that and connect. I can always go out and take photos of what you guys are looking at. You don't necessarily have to put me in a deal or anything like that. I'm just happy to help. Ultimately, we all just look to invest in the places where we can really get the numbers to pencil. So that's kind of the key. Before I turn it over, before I do an intro here with George, I just want to play a quick video that'll it'll be a nice segue to getting George going. All right, everyone. Good morning. This is Ray Reyes. I am in Augusta, Georgia. Beautiful morning. Everything is popping. Just grabbing a little breakfast before we hit one of our latest acquisitions here, 104 units at what used to be called Fairway Village, which is now called Green Meadows at 2910. So we're going to take a look to see what our team has been doing as far as getting that property back into a more premium condition as a solid value add property and opportunity. All right, here we are at our property in Augusta, Georgia, Green Meadows at 2910. We're just gonna do a little tour. This is a property that we bought, 104 units. It's been about 2 months now. We bought it at the end of February, closed on it. And we've been doing a lot of work to this property, and this is just my captures here of some of the work that's already been done in that short amount of time. We've done quite a bit, so we're just going to take a little bit of a walk, take a look at some properties, go inside, go outside, see where we still have some work to do. Follow me. the important thing is, and why I wanted to show the video is, yes, this is an asset that that I'm working on right now. We got it under contract over the holidays, closed on it early February, but a primary member of that team and the one that was able to get us to a good comfort on that this was a good investment is George. George is actually a partner on that deal. He's one of the senior partners, and he was in charge of doing the due diligence on this asset, and also is still in charge, because we're not completely done, with the CapEx that he's working on with his company, of course. And so I just wanted to put that in there because, obviously George has done a lot of work. I don't know if anybody remembers some of the photos on this, but it was just an ugly, ugly brick. And you saw some of the interiors on there. It's just pretty beat up. And what we do is we take these and we bring them to a condition that is valuable. And sometimes that means not doing everything, but doing enough where we can certainly bring them at least to market rent, if not higher. And so, but the key is that you want to make sure your estimates are right. And that's where, both the due diligence piece and the CapEx piece are critical, because if you overestimate, your numbers may not work. If you underestimate, your investors won't be too happy. So, I think that's the key. So I'm going to do a quick intro, George, and then I'll let you take it away. I've got the presentation, or if you want, I'll share the presentation so that you can do it on your end. Or I'll give you control, I meant.
Yeah, give me control. That might be easier.
Okay, cool. So I'll just tell a little bit about you, George. Obviously, you've been investing in real estate for 15 years. You started with single family, small multifamily properties, eventually working up to large 100 plus multifamily properties. This one here is 104 units. George has wholesaled over 200 plus single family properties, fixed and flipped over 150 single family properties. Then he went on and developed and completed several new development projects worth over 20 million in ground up construction. He started and built a construction company, J&T Construction, who's the one that's actually doing the work on this asset, and brought in over 12 million in yearly revenue, which is still growing. He's now both an active and passive full-time multifamily investor. I think eventually all of us become passive, even the active ones. So it's always good to keep that in mind, as even if you do want to be an active operator now, at some point, that may be something you want to do later on. And of course, his company Elevate, which is the multifamily investing company that he has over 2,500 doors. I think you got more than that now, but I'm pretty sure that number's gone up significantly since the bio there. And then you've got another 284 under contract. So 2,400 plus doors on the LP side. Think about that, folks. So it's just an all around strong body of work here. And I'll leave it there. George, I'll turn it over to you, man.
All right. Thank you for that intro, man. And I like the video and tying it all in together. Good stuff. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Put a presentation together for you guys today. You guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Good deal. So this is my favorite topic. And it's mainly because obviously I own the construction company, and I like to think that I do this as one of the best in the space. I bring that experience, and it's something that I noticed early on when I got into multifamily. A lot of the investors did not have a lot of construction background or even any type of renovation background. A lot of them were engineer or tech or just different industries. So I felt like I could definitely add value in that space, and that's what I've tried to do. So here's a little bit about, I'm going to cover due diligence and CapEx and maybe some other items. depending. How much time do I have, Ray? You're on mute.
A good 45 minutes to an hour, man.
Okay. Then yeah, I should be able to get through everything. So this is what I'm going to cover. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about myself. I'll probably make that pretty quick since Ray already told you quite a bit. A little bit about my companies, and then I'm going to go through the same process I go through when I find a property, all the way from when I don't even step foot on the property, when it's first brought to my attention, and then all the way to where we are actually doing the CapEx. So every step throughout. And then on top of that, I've got some bonus sections, one on how to hire a contractor, some random good tips for multifamily investors, and then networking tips, as well as book recommendations and some software recommendations as well. So as far as myself, I'm actually a little bit over 3,000 doors now on the general partnership side, on the GP side. That's 275 million under management. And that's throughout Texas, Oklahoma, Georgia, and also South Dakota. This is what I do day in and day out, multifamily renovations and investing. So like mentioned before, I also have a construction company that does all of our CapEx work, and we also do work for other investors. And then we usually have a couple new development projects going on at the same time. This is my investment company, Elevate Commercial Investment Group, and just some of the stats that I already kind of went over. And then J&T is the construction company. Like I mentioned, we do multifamily renovations, other commercial tenant build out type renovations as well, and then new construction on large multifamily properties. I've got some before and afters for you guys of some of the properties that we transformed. We love painting brick, by the way, just like we did in Augusta. And just some of the properties I own and some are clients as well. All right, so what I call the pre-property tour. So before you even tour the property, these are a list of questions that I like to ask the broker, the seller, whoever you're dealing with. Hopefully it's not a wholesaler, but if it is, then, same thing. Make sure you get as much information as possible on the front end, so that when you're submitting your offer, it's essentially you have an educated guess on the CapEx. You're not really going to have a full picture on the CapEx till you get out there and do some detailed inspections, but there are a lot of questions that you can ask that can help you formulate that CapEx scope of work. So I'm not going to go through all this, and I'll give everyone a chance to get these slides. Actually, I think I had it. Well, I put my email in the chat, and then that's my email right there as well. If you email me and tell me you saw this and you'd like a copy of the slides, I will get it over to you guys. So with that said, I asked some detailed questions, mainly about what type of CapEx has been done. And then some questions that don't get answered, but sometimes they do, which is mainly like, what do they think should be done? And, where do they think value can be added, or where are there any major issues with the property? So sometimes, the broker, the seller is probably not gonna give you that much information. I definitely suggest you ask these same questions on site to the maintenance staff. So usually the maintenance staff is the one that's going to take you around. They don't usually hold back. So I definitely suggest you do that. And then these are some high level CapEx numbers for interior units. Some of this, I think that this is coming from Texas, and also we have traveling crews, so it's a little different. I know in some areas things are more expensive, but this is just to give you a really rough idea. Remember, you haven't even stepped foot on the property at this point. So 3K per unit would be, the units have been renovated recently and you're just gonna do a little touch up here and there, and you're gonna maybe just change the countertops to granite and everything else has already been replaced. Something like that. At 6K per unit, that's pretty much, you're gonna do everything in there, except you're gonna keep the cabinets, you're gonna keep countertops, you're just gonna resurface those. And then flooring, you can maybe squeeze in new flooring in that number. And then 10K is you're really gonna deck it out. You're gonna do new cabinets, new countertops, new flooring. And this is mainly for the Class C properties. You know, when you get to B and A properties, the finish outs are gonna be a little bit nicer. So these numbers may go up a bit. And then this is just some real high level, quick underwriting we do. And I plug in just a basic per unit CapEx number. And this is pretty much just to know if I should dig any deeper. And then if I check the box with that underwriting and with my rough CapEx, then the next step would be to actually tour the property. So there's certain things that when we tour the property that we look for. You know, this is just to mention a few: landscape, looking for trees that need to come down, or branches that are going over the roof line, overgrown bushes and trees. Exterior walls, you want to really look into what condition they're in. You know, is the brick cracked everywhere? Is the siding all rotted out? Make sure to take lots and lots of pictures and videos. Windows, you know, you want to obviously check out the condition of the windows. Solar screens, we do a lot of solar screens when we have older windows. So replacing windows is pretty expensive, especially if you're gonna do it to an entire property. So a lot of the times we'll just put on some solar screens. It's gonna help you with the heat and energy efficiency, but at the same time, it's gonna make the property look a lot better too, because you're not gonna see those old aluminum windows. You're just gonna see a black solar screen. The roof, very important. You know, sometimes it's gonna be hard to get a good look at it when you're doing just a property tour, but you could at least get an idea for it. And then obviously the interior units, you want to try to look at least one classic and one upgraded unit, and then one of each unit type. And all of this is, so I don't know about you guys, but when I go to inspection, I want to be very efficient. So I mean, all of this is pre-planned. The brokers know exactly what we want to see. And we're in and out. You know, we get there, they have everything ready. We have our checklist, we go through it, and we check all the boxes. So plumbing, HVAC, foundation, amenities. So always be thinking about your updates as well, and not just what's wrong with it, not just your deferred maintenance. You know, don't forget that you also have to cosmetically update the property as well. And then parking lots, fences, gates, cameras. So one thing I love about multifamily is coming from single family, and the last things I was doing in single family was mainly custom builds, and it was a ton of work. A lot of, you know, when you're adding a second story to an existing one-story house, you run into a lot of issues. With multifamily, man, it is pretty straightforward. It's almost the same 15 to 20 items every single property. You know, some are going to need more work than others, but it's hard to miss anything, is what I'm kind of getting at. And it's hard to get surprised with things. Then this
George,
is
how do you want to answer questions? You want to wait till the end, or you want them as they ask them? I see one question. I was asking if you want to wait until the end or you want to answer.
Yeah, it's up to you, Ray. I can do either or. If you wanna, why don't we just do them as they come in? That's fine.
Okay, I see Cedric's got his hand raised.
Yes, thank you, Ray. Jorge, when it comes to the property tour, you're doing this before you submit your LOI?
That is correct. Unless it's unless it's a deal that I'm the only one working, or at least I think I am, and I want to get an LOI out there to feel them out on price. But for the most part, yes, this is before I've submitted anything.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So these are some more rough CapEx numbers. This is a per unit price on the left side, and then on the right side is an exterior per unit, meaning if you've got a 100-unit apartment, you do 100 times 550. That's what it's going to cost you to do the exterior paint. Rough numbers. So this will, once you do your property tour, you take your notes, you can kind of plug some of these numbers in and get an idea for it. I will tell you guys, I am working on a software that will have a lot more of this in it. And I'll probably be rolling out with that in a few months, but it'll be really, really helpful for investors when they're trying to figure out CapEx and also managing their CapEx. Then this is usually after my property tour, or sometimes during the property tour, I go through and I fill out a simple spreadsheet I have. This is essentially what I'm going to have the app replace. And it's got a lot of the numbers in there already. And you plug in the square footage. When you plug in the square footage, it's going to calculate your roofing, whether it's a flat roof or a sloped roof. It's going to calculate how much if you were to replace the entire roof, or if you're not replacing the entire roof, then you can adjust as needed. Same thing with a couple other items, like when you put in the unit count, it's going to give you, there's your paint, the 5 exterior carpentry and paint. So this is 510 times 216. And then this, whatever this spits out, I don't know if I have the second page here. Yeah, okay. So then this is going to be my CapEx, right? It's not going to be exact. I'm still going to want to obviously inspect the property once we land it, but every deal I've done, this is plus or minus 10% off or so. And then, you submit your offer, you get it accepted. Next step is going to be obviously to do your due diligence. So same thing with due diligence. You want to be super organized and very efficient with your time when you're on the property. From experience, I see a lot of investors that honestly during due diligence, they're literally just checking the box off just so that they feel like they did due diligence. They don't put together their scope of work, which is what you should be doing there, is putting your actual final scope of work for CapEx. They don't do anything with the data that's collected. The data is, I still see people filling out a sheet for each unit, and that information never makes it anywhere other than that piece of paper. So we use a software while we're doing the unit by units. All that information transfers over to our property manager, and we also have all the information as well, all the pictures taken. And then we get, so all your major components, we have the professionals out there checking them. So if we've got a chiller, we've got somebody that focuses on chillers, and they're the ones inspecting it. Same thing with the boilers, roofs, termites, etc. So this is a quick video. I'm not sure if you guys are going to hear the sound, but this is just showing you how many people doing a due diligence. You know, we have folks all over the place. Yeah. And then these are some due diligence videos. So now I've started actually doing videos while I'm on site and kind of recapping everything. I'll just play the start of one real quick, give you an idea. I'm gonna skip forward a little bit just to show you something.
All right, so we're at due diligence today. This is Canyon Club Apartments in Houston, 240 units. We feel that due diligence is a very important stage of acquiring a multifamily property. So we're very thorough when we do our inspections. We're inside one of the units right now, one of the few vacant units in this apartment. It's actually 97% occupied right now. However, they have not done many upgrades to the apartment. The current owner has owned it for 15 years now, and just hasn't he's felt comfortable with what he has and hasn't done the upgrades. Therefore, the market rent right now, it's about so this unit they're calling it a 1.5 bedroom. This is the half bedroom. And what we're gonna do is turn into a two bedroom. So we're just gonna do a little bit of framing here.
All right. So pretty much I go through every single aspect of the property and what we're going to do with the CapEx, and I recap it all in the videos. It's great when we have a client that we're doing due diligence for, and it's also good for our own properties. You know, we share this with our investors and they feel very comfortable in what we're going to do and what our CapEx plan is.
George, I got a couple of additional questions here. The first one, does these prices cover material and labor? I'm assuming that means the price per unit.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, and then the next question was, says, you said earlier that you like to paint brick. It does look nicer, yet it is creating an expense for the property. Why do you do this?
Because it looks nicer. And yes, I realize I'm creating maintenance, but to me, it's more important to create that curb appeal and modernize the property. And I'm not going to own the property for the next 20 years unless it's, you know, a legacy hold, and I plan to hold on to it for a long time. If not, I'm most likely selling it in 3 to 5 years. And then they'll come in with CapEx and be able to repaint it. You said there was a couple questions. Is that the only one?
Yeah, it was a two. It was on the price per unit and that.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha. Okay.
I got a question. I don't know if they can do it.
Hey, Nate.
Hey, what's up, George? How you doing, man?
Man, doing good.
Good. So real quick, with those prices, so units are going to vary, right? As far as size. What's going on, Ray, too? I see. Units are going to vary as far as size. Have you broken that down to like per square foot? I know like back in the day when working with developers, they would have it like $15 per square foot for like basic, right? And then like $50 for like a little fancier, but then high end would be like $100 per square foot. Do you do the same thing, or do you just pretty much go off of like kind of how you have already broken it down?
Yeah, so it's tough per square foot. It's actually, with apartments, it's easier for bathrooms and bedrooms.
Right. Okay.
So the way I do have it broken down is a studio, a 1-1, a 2-1, a 2-2.
Right.
Which obviously I didn't share that here, but Yeah, that's when I get more detailed, that's the way I have it broken down.
Because it's basically tackling just those parts of the whole, right?
Right, the painting is going to
kitchen,
be
painting, flooring, lighting, hardware, fixtures.
correct. The most expensive part is going to be the fixtures. You know, when you're adding a new bathroom, you're adding quite a bit of cost. And we're talking about rough numbers. So when we go to get detailed at that point, yeah, we're going to be doing square foot for paint and flooring, and then we're actually going to have the count on the fixtures.
Okay. All right.
Make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so continue with due diligence. So we'll have, like I mentioned, a software, and that is very easy to kind of plug and play. You know, you have to go step by step what the software is asking you for. It's a template that I've put in there, and that way we're looking at we're looking at the same items in every single unit. Same thing with the exteriors. This is a video of an example interior unit and how we walk it.
All right, here's the beginning of a unit by unit walk. So just checking out the items. The software goes section by section. Check items as we go. Take pictures as we go as well. And here we're pretty much looking at the quality of the cabinets, the countertops, sink faucet, appliances, what type of finish they are, whether they're in good shape or not. It's a decent shape. Also check the flooring. Mark if that needs to be replaced. What type of flooring is there existing? Check under the sink for leaks. Check all the lighting. Pretty much covers the kitchen. Let's see. So the app can be used on a phone.
I'm gonna stop it there, but I think it's we cover the unit in usually 3 to 5 minutes. We're in and out of each unit. We can inspect maybe close to 200 units a day if needed. Usually one of our guys can do 30 to 40 units in one day. This is what the,
Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
No, so as you're walking the unit, you're using the spreadsheet, or is it an app?
That's an app.
Okay, and that's rolling out soon. That's like available now, or how is that coming out?
So this one's a pure due diligence app. It's called HappyCo. Then the app I'm going to be rolling out with is going to be, it's going to have it all, like from the property tour to due diligence to actually doing the CapEx.
But if you were on this call, you get it for half off.
Exactly. Send me an email and tell me you want to be added to the list.
Right. One good discount.
Yeah, so this is some of the statistics this app is gonna give you when you're doing it. So like right here, it's telling us that we're 85% complete. At any given time, I can look in there, let's say I have a team of 10 walking the units. I can pull it up and see how many more units we have left. It gives you reasons, like if we haven't gotten into something, so you see no key or large pet. Those are the reasons why we weren't able to get into that unit. So there's another page here with more stuff. So here it tells you good, repair, replace, missing. And it gives you all the different items. A lot of good data and usable data. And then here are some of the most common missed during due diligence. So I don't think the roofs necessarily get missed. I think more investors trust the sellers too much on the roof. And if they think it looks pretty from the bottom, maybe they don't get it inspected. I suggest you always get them inspected. A poorly installed roof is almost going to cost you more than just putting on a new roof to a poor roof. So definitely want to get it inspected and make sure it was installed correctly. Termites, that could be pretty costly. I've had to frame up some walls before in some apartments. Actually, one of the first ones we bought, I didn't do a termite inspection. So learn from my mistakes and do a termite inspection. Foundation and drainage. So the mistake I see here a lot is just thinking that you have to do the foundation work. And this is mainly for Texas. So Texas has a lot of foundation issues. It's because of the soil. But if you have foundation issues, it's usually one of the two reasons. One, your drainage is poor and it's going towards the foundation of the property, which then causes it to shift. Or you have a sewer line cracked and you have water just pouring into the bottom of your foundation. If you go in and you just fix the foundation and lift the foundation, but you don't fix the actual root cause of it, then it's just going to happen again. And time, I see, especially foundation companies, they'll come and they'll tell you, hey, it's going to be this much to lift the property, but then they won't even look at the drainage or what the actual issue is that caused that. So make sure you do both. You check the foundation and the drainage. Speaking of sewer lines, you also check your sewer lines. I suggest that you get, if not all the sewer lines scoped, that you do a good portion of them, maybe 50%, depending how big the property is. And that should give you an idea of what kind of condition they're in and some of the repairs you're going to need. And then the last one is exterior walls, balconies, and walkways. On the exterior walls, sometimes things can look okay from far, but you really need to get in there and make sure you don't have underlying issues. A lot of the times it's with flashing and you're getting water behind your siding or your stucco. Stucco is, if you ever buy anything that's stucco, make sure you get it inspected thoroughly. I see issues with it all the time, and it's usually because water, the builders don't flash it correctly, and then you got water creeping in from behind, and that can end up costing you quite a bit. And then balconies and walkways, mainly structure-wise. A lot of the times the posts have failed, and they're not really holding up your balconies or your catwalks. So make sure you inspect that and that you're ready to spend some money on reinforcing those. Here's an example of what the type of detail, once we're done with due diligence, what it looks like and the amount of detail that goes into each line item. Example for the CapEx report. What is this? Okay. Let's see.
So George, got another question.
Yes.
So do you find yourself retrading after these findings? Is that a common thing, or you just is it like an as-is thing and you're just kind of crunching your numbers or going back to the table, kind of rerunning numbers, or do you see?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So, I just went over all upfront things I do before we even get to due diligence. So a lot of the times I'm able to discover some of the issues that I would find in due diligence beforehand, especially if the seller answers a lot of my questions. So I don't retrade a lot, but with that said, if I do find some issues, absolutely, you know, if I find that half the buildings have sewer issues and it's going to cost a whole lot more than I thought it was going to, then absolutely, I'm going to go ahead and do that. You guys still there?
Yes.
Sorry, I thought my Wi-Fi went nuts.
Hey,
Okay,
George, I got a quick question. Good evening.
is that Winston?
Yes, sir.
Hey, buddy.
Do you scope the lines on a Class A and B building as well?
That's a great question. You said on Class A and B?
And B property.
B, yes. B, I'm maybe not gonna do all the buildings.
Okay.
I'll do some to see what kind of condition they're in. And then, there's also some cameras you can run that can tell you if you have leaks, and on that type of property, that might be the best route.
Okay. So not on the A though. It's rare, I'm assuming.
It depends how new it is. So if it's pretty new, like if it's on lease up,
Right.
then I want to run it more, because when you're doing a ground up project, a lot of the times you end up getting debris from the construction into the sewer lines. It's very, very common. And then once you start leasing up that property, the sewer starts backing up from that.
Okay.
So I'm more inclined to do it then versus like a 2017 or 2018.
It's been running for a while. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Thank
I'm going
you.
to jump in. I'm going to jump in right here before I get in trouble. I wanted to recognize Winston. Winston was the good-looking fellow in the video, by the way. One of my other partners on this one. So I tell you, these networking things, it's just not lip service. There's some networking going on here. So Winston is our partner on the ground. So he's at the property in Augusta just about every day. So good to have you, man.
Thank you, Ray.
I agree with that 100%.
Thank you, George.
You're welcome.
So I got one more question, George, from Candace. She asked, when you refer to sewer lines to be scoped, are you referring to building to street only or from each unit as well?
Yeah, so not from each unit. You're going to go from, hopefully the properties, I didn't even mention that, but a lot of the times these older properties won't have clean outs. So hopefully each building has a clean out. And then you're going to want to go from the clean out through under the building, which would cover, you know, under your units, which is the most important thing, because then if you have an issue there, you're gonna have to break concrete or dig a tunnel to get to it. And if you find some major issues, and sometimes it's good to go ahead and scope the yard line as well, depending on what you find. So it's a very ongoing, and you can ask Winston this, but we did Augusta. I mean, it's you want to be there. You definitely want to have somebody there that part of the ownership, with the plumbers and checking out what they're finding and deciding whether you want to do more or less.
Correct.
Any other questions? Okay. So this is just a quick example of some of the reporting we do. This was a $10 million CapEx project we did last year. And this was one of the reports that we put together during CapEx. So kind of just, you know, laying out what we had completed so far, what was coming up next, some pictures, some before and after pictures. and that property was ugly, but looks nice now. So yeah, more before and afters. New roofs so that the investors can actually see the roofs going on and where their money's actually going. Same with the interior units. One of my favorite amenities, soccer field. From this horrific antenna field, I guess. Yeah, so that's just to give you an idea. So.
I got an underwriting question for that CapEx, George, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Are you writing it as a raise, or you typically finance the CapEx?
Depends what type of debt we're doing. If we're going in with a bridge, usually the either 100% or whatever percent leverage is going to be, the CapEx is going to be included in that.
Okay.
If it's agency, sometimes or most of the time you're going to raise it. I think there are some agency loans that include some of the CapEx, but I think it just depends on the debt.
Okay.
All right, and then I don't know why it's not going full screen now. It's kind of weird, but you guys can see it okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's fine.
All right, and then to me, this is one of the things that gets missed the most is, you've done all this work, you've done the due diligence, and then you kind of leave it at that. And then you go back to raising your equity and forgetting about the fact that you're about to spend millions of dollars on this property once you close on it. And you never really finalize the scope of work and your budget. I'm not saying this is everybody, but I have seen it quite a bit with investors. They wait till they actually close on it, and then they spend months trying to figure out what their scope is, and it doesn't make sense. You have a business plan to execute. You should be starting from day one. It should be very clear what you're going to be doing. I'm not saying I don't believe in having some flexibility. I do think you have to have some flexibility. We like getting, I'll give you an example, on amenities. We usually like getting some feedback and sending out some surveys if we're not 100% sure what amenity to add. So stuff like that, you can have some flexibility, but overall, you should know what your final scope of work is. You should know how many units you're gonna rehab. You should know what deferred maintenance you're gonna take care of. And to my next slide is, you should already have a pre-construction meeting with your team, with ownership, with property management, with the contractor, and get everybody on the same page. So once again, it's nice and smooth and efficient once you close. Another thing I see a lot is the property manager. So property manager, contractor, and ownership not being aligned, right? And then the property manager and the contractor kind of tugging at each other. Sometimes the property manager is upset that, if the investor hired a GC and didn't pay the property manager to GC the project. So you got to make sure there's a good working relationship there. And I think it starts with having a pre-construction meeting and getting everybody to know each other and know what the plan is. So every single one of our properties, we always have a pre-construction meeting. It's usually either right before we close or the week after we close. And then we kick off the CapEx shortly after. So I'm not sure on time. Guess how much more time, Ray?
We're good, man. We got this thing till about 9:30, and some of us will stay even later, just chatting afterwards. So we're good. Okay. Just a couple bonus slides here. So how to properly hire a contractor. It's pretty easy. Just hire J&T and you're good. You don't have to worry about the rest. Really though,
you want to make sure they're reputable. Nowadays, there's no reason why they shouldn't have an online presence. This isn't a $30,000 remodel on a single family home. This should be a professional contractor. They should have some type of online presence. It should be good, right? You should see good reviews and references. They should be able to give you some references that you can actually call. And I do suggest you call them. Believe it or not, I've gotten references in the past for different things. Called the references, and they have talked me out of whatever it was. I know hiring employees, I've done that, and they've pretty much talked me out of hiring that person. So 2 lessons learned there. Ask for references and call them, and make sure you give good references whenever you give references. But case studies, they should have some case studies for you. They should be able to supply you with their GL insurance, and should be at least $1 million, preferably more than that. They should have more credentials. So, for instance, J&T, we're a part of pretty much all the major associations in Texas. And we have some other certifications, OSHA and some others there. Then number 2 is the details, right? And to get those details, you've got to know the questions to ask, and you've got to actually ask them to the contractor. So one is their scope of work, and how detailed is that scope? Does it, is it just a single paragraph and then $2 million at the bottom, or is it line item after line item telling you exactly how much it is and what it is? Material wise, do you have an allowance for those materials, or does it just say replace sink faucets, and you're picturing this amazing looking kitchen sink faucet and you end up with this hideous looking thing, and contractor says, that's what you paid for it. Communication. So you want to ask them, how do they communicate throughout the project? Do they use a software? Do they have a project management software that they use? Are you going to meet with them weekly? Are you going to get on calls? Or do they just expect you to hand over the project and not have to communicate? Change orders. You want to know their process for change orders. Are they the contractor that's just going to go and do the change order and then give you an invoice when they're done? Or are they going to actually document it, give you a price, and then wait till you approve it? And on that one, depending on speed, I do suggest you have maybe a dollar amount, anything under 500 is fine. Go ahead and move forward with it. Anything above that, depending on the project, but you don't want it to become so cumbersome either, where it slows the project down. Project completion, you want to ask them, if they actually have a detailed schedule and when they plan to complete it. How do they do their final punch? When they're turning over units, what's their process? And then warranty. Are you getting any manufacturer warranties? What's their labor warranty, etc. So that was how to hire a contractor. This is some other random good tips. How to add value to properties. So I've done this on a lot of properties where we go in and we find a way to add more units. A lot of the times it's a leasing office that is maybe taking up 2 units and only needs to take up 1 unit, or storage units where the maintenance is using 3 units for storage, when in reality 2 of them are just trash. So definitely adding units is an easy way. Adding character to the property. We do a lot of cedar accents on our exteriors. Talked about the solar screens. All those things kind of give it a pop. Painting the brick, that adds character, modernizes the property, and fixes up the curb appeal. And then you've got technology, smart packages. USB ports are pretty cheap, and it's a nice touch. You know, you can put maybe one in the definitely in the kitchen, and then one in the family room, and then obviously smart locks, smart thermostats, those things. Some affordable amenities to add to a property. So a dog park can be pretty affordable depending on how you do it. But you can do a pretty simple fence, and then they have these kits that they sell with all the little obstacles and stuff for the dogs. And it can be pretty inexpensive. Barbecues and sitting areas, same thing. Yeah, so repurposing some, I've come across a lot of leasing offices that are pretty big, and there's just kind of some empty space or some space being used for storage that can easily be repurposed to like a business center or more like a coffee station, something like that. Oh, sorry. Interior unit renovations. If you're having to replace countertops, a stone countertop versus a Formica countertop, not a huge difference in price, and your stone is going to last you a lot longer and obviously look a little nicer. Doing all plugs and switches with all new plates, and they also, if you guys aren't aware of this, they sell the covers where it also covers your plug and switch, so you don't have to physically replace them, and it looks brand new. We use those all the time. And then if your cabinets are in pretty bad shape, usually the boxes are savable, and you can just go ahead and replace the fronts, and that'll save you a lot on labor and material. And then a few things to dramatically change the curb appeal. I kind of talked about that a little bit already, but exterior paint, complete rebrand. Believe it or not, parking lot, if you've got an asphalt one and you reseal it, it's inexpensive and it looks sharp. Like pulling up to the property, you see a nice black asphalt parking lot and restriped. It looks nice. And then I mentioned solar screens, and then obviously some landscape.
George, we got a question from Candace, who's got her hands up. Candace, go ahead.
Hi, thanks, George. I wanted to go back just briefly when you were talking about choosing a contractor. I haven't invested in multifamily. I'm also a licensed contractor, but I know in the single family world, a lot of times people will, unscrupulous people will sell their license to get their permit. Basically, you know, they'll go pull the permit, and then they'll have, you know, anybody that's not licensed or that knowledgeable do some work. And I'm wondering, in multifamily, do you come across that where larger people will actually sell their permit to get maybe to a smaller company, and you're not really getting the informed contractors that you're thinking of, and you never see the person that's actually got the permit?
Yeah, you know, I think that happens everywhere. We come across it more with the trades, and well, there is no license for GCs in Texas, actually, only for the trades. But honestly, if everything else I said checks out, I don't think it's that big of a deal. If they're reputable and they've got good reviews, they've got actual references and projects that they've completed, there's nothing to me on the multifamily, and I'm not talking about new construction. You know, that's a whole other. If you're gonna have somebody build something from the ground up, they definitely should be licensed and know more. But on the renovation side, there's not really too much. Like I said early on, you know, it's really simple things. It's the same thing over and over and over. It's more of, can that contractor do what they say they're going to do, and not necessarily the license. All right, so this next slide, Ray's talking about networking, and here are just some of the live events. You know, I don't know about you guys, but I'm happy that live events are back. There's quite a bit scheduled for the rest of this year. I know my travel schedule looks insane, and my wife wants to kill me, but all good. Just some tips when you're networking. So, you know, I've done a lot of networking in the past years, and same thing I said with these inspections, right? Just be efficient with your time, do it with purpose. Know who you want to meet and make it a point to meet them, and listen to them. A lot of people don't listen when they're networking. They're so eager to say what is on their mind that they're not actually listening to the other person talking. I'll tell you this, if you're able to add value to somebody, it's going to come back. Trust me. And surround yourself with the right individuals. You know, like Ray said, Winston's in here, I'm in here, and we're all partners in a deal. And sorry, my daughter just walked in the room. But you want to say hi? No. Okay. So yeah, I think that's
At the end of the day, that's what it's all about, is family.
Yes, sir.
There's no better way than to build some wealth than through doing these type of things, long-term wealth.
Absolutely. So let's see. So I think that's enough on networking. I think you guys get the point. Books. I'm a big believer in getting educated and continuing to learn. I've got a ton of book recommendations if you go to my site. And these are just a few that I recommend for business and personal development. I've also got some for multifamily real estate. So check that out. Software, I'm also a strong believer of working as efficiently as you can and automizing as much as you can. There's only so much time in each day, so the more I can get automized, the better. And we're hiring. If anybody wants to be a project manager, let me know. And that's it. You got my contact info there, and if you got more questions, I'm here.
Great.
All right. So,
I have a quick question.
all right, perfect.
You know, one of the things that I thought about, you know, in giving back to the community when I also invest in multifamily, and the thing about creating all that work with painting, I just know how much that can really take on with the building. And I was wondering, have you ever looked into getting local artists to do like a mural or something on a portion of the building instead of painting the whole thing? And sometimes you can actually get a grant for them for that entire expense to be taken care of. But obviously you got to control to make it not be something that's dated and look like it was done in the 1970s. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I got you. We have one project now in Houston that it's right next to a college, and we're trying to make it, it's a very trendy area, or becoming a very trendy area. So we're thinking of getting somebody from the college, one of the art students, or more than one, to come and do like a nice mural on the front. Not exactly what you're talking about, but somewhat, I guess.
Yeah, it's about the same. Instead of having repainting the whole building, it's just having.
Oh, we're still gonna paint the rest of the building though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it adds a lot more maintenance and whatnot, but it's just, it's hard to, these brick colors just, you know, they're dated, and it's hard to get a good color scheme that's really gonna make the building pop when you leave the old brick.
Yeah, there's nothing better when a tenant's coming to look at a property to even before they get to the leasing office, they drive in and they see brand new, right? I mean, obviously not new buildings, but just everything just looks clean. That's the perception piece right up front. If you can't get, if they have a bad taste in their mouth coming in, you can have the best units in the world on the interior, and you're probably not gonna get as many tenants to sign up.
Well, they won't even make it in the interior.
Yeah, you're right.
Hey, George, when you're doing the painting, especially on the exterior, are you doing it from a branding standpoint? Are you using you recommend using the same colors, the same kind of style, like when it comes to just the overall aesthetic, create more like a brand throughout the region or throughout the MSA?
You know, we've thought about doing that, and even with our names, because we're rebranding a lot of the properties. We're kind of starting to do that with the names, but the colors have been, it's a portfolio of 3 properties that we acquired, and they're not, that we decided to keep the color scheme the same, even though they were in different parts of town, but on our other properties, we haven't. But I do know some other investors that have done that and kind of made it their, like a very bright color scheme. And when you see that color scheme, you kind of know it's that investor. I'm not sure if we're going to take it there yet, but it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I've seen that here in the Midwest, where the monument signage and the color scheme is synonymous throughout all the assets. So it kind of rings true for brand recognition from a tenant perspective. Because if they tend to, I believe they would, if they were being treated right and for whatever reason they wanted to move from a C to a B or an A, and you had that kind of inventory or those class separations in your asset or your portfolio, that they would definitely recognize that brand through colors and monument sign and things like that.
No,
I mean,
absolutely, man.
even the text on the monument sign is unique, right? From what I've seen, this one, I thought that was a pretty cool way to get your brand out there.
Yeah, it's all about branding, right? I mean, I think it's next level stuff, but it's good stuff.
Cool. I want to remind everyone to make sure they put their information on the chat if you haven't done so. I know we had some folks that came in a little bit late, and I'll hold in case anybody has any last question. But while you're thinking through that, just want to remind everyone or actually let everyone know that next month we have our meeting on July 19th. We'll be discussing investing in manufactured housing, and mobile home parks with Ryan Smith, who's an asset manager of self-storage and manufactured housing communities with over 20,000 units across more than 100 properties in 30 states. So just another kind of angle, things that we can look at, because sometimes, certainly here in Florida, things seem to be really pricing high. So this is just another kind of way to round out some of the education and look at some potential other opportunities. But I'm going to open up one last time in case anybody has any questions for George. I tell you what, I've got questions, but I don't want to ruin it for everyone else, because I would just be flapping my gums for hours here.
Okay.
I got a question. Is anybody buying in Miami?
Scott, you're from Miami, right? You're close enough. You're on mute.
I'm in Plantation, but no, I don't get down there too much because it's, like you said, it's really high now.
Yeah.
We're trying to get George to invest in Central Florida. I'm still looking at some stuff for him. So hopefully we can find something. And if you guys have something out there that you think is doable, bring it up. I mean, there's just a lot of competition down here, because everybody, just like Texas, everybody loves Florida.
Yeah.
George, what's your take on new developments versus value add deals? What is your preference?
I think they're 2 completely different type of investments. I like them both. I think, what I personally do is my bread and butter is the Class C, Class B multifamily. But I like to have 1 or 2 development projects going on at all times, because that's a big payout on the new development, and then the multifamily is just consistent.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Anybody else? Any other questions? Going once, going twice. All right, done deal. George, we're about to go into some open networking. If you want to stick around, by all means, it's up to you. We can go anywhere with this. The one thing that I do let people know is normally for the recording, I am recording this. What I'll do is I'll post the actual presentation in the recording, but not the discussion. And so if it's that way, people can be a little bit potentially more free with some of the questions and things that come up. So just to give you an idea and at least to alleviate some potential fears with that. You still got to be careful with the deals you pitch, though. That's still something especially if it's a 506B, you got to be careful with those. But George, man, it's been fantastic. That was a great presentation. I'm going to make it available to everyone on my YouTube channel. I'll send that out once it's been posted on there. And then as far as the slides, they can go directly to you. If not, they can reach out to me and I'll make sure they get them, man. That's fantastic.
Awesome. Thank you, man.